a ghostly flower that is no match for Count Dracula, a totally unknown sea creature that ends up exploding, or a shark with a very strange bite. Here are the 10 strangest things you will probably see for the first time in your life. If you love to stroll along the seashore, keep your eyes open for some curious discoveries. And if you're the lucky type, you might even discover a new marine species, which we'll name in your honor. On this rather creepy sequence, some Japanese walkers might have the right to this privilege since they found a very strange animal that seems to come straight out of the fifth dimension. It is indeed while strolling quietly on the rocks by low tide that these walkers have seen this incredible marine creature that looks like a big wart. The bizarre animal seemed to be swollen and ready to implode under the pressure, but this did not disturb the scientists, who decided to get closer in order to probe the beast from every angle. One of them, even more daring, took a small wooden stick and started to turn the creature over to prick it, in order to see if it was going to come out of the tentacles or the hidden fins. But as nothing was happening, he decided to spray the animal with Coke, probably thinking that the animal could not remain indifferent with such a shower. But as you will see, we can definitely say that this was not the best idea of the century. The strange creature then started to vomit a white liquid substance by its frontal orifice, narrowly missing to blind its stupid torturers. The unfortunate one will end up literally by exploding in a powerful deflagration which scattered it in 1,000 pieces. Without the beneficial light of the sun, almost all the vegetal species on Earth would wither and disappear within a few months. Because it is indeed with the soft rays of our old solar star that plants can feed themselves in energy thanks to the subtle process of photosynthesis. A plant deprived of this light is thus a condemned plant, except of course if it is a plant organism coming from elsewhere, or quite simply of vampiric descent. Here is the Uniflorous monotrope, a pale herbaceous plant like a vampire, and which like him hates the sun rays. This spectral-looking flower is indeed totally white and pale because it does not contain chlorophyll, and therefore cannot photosynthesize. The Uniflorous monotrope survives in fact by parasitizing the roots of a conifer, which itself is in symbiotic relationship with an underground fungus. Thanks to this surprising ménage à trois, the monotrope can thus draw the nutrients it needs to grow and develop. This parasitic plant can thus be considered as the vegetal Dracula, sucking the vital sap of its victims and living in the darkness of dark and gloomy places. Here is a video that we simply can't say it lacks excitement. I might as well warn you right away, we are going to talk about scorpions and one of their most extraordinary abilities. So, if you have a phobia of this certainly not very reassuring animal, we strongly advise you to zap until the next sequence. If you are still here, it means that scorpions do not scare you too much, or that they fascinate you by their unique characteristics in this whole animal kingdom. You know that these terrifying arthropods are real killing machines, armed with extremely powerful pincers and a sting with a lightning venom. The scorpion is also very protected by a robust exoskeleton. You who know a lot about these terrible creatures also know that they are particularly resistant to nuclear radiation, and that they could even survive the radiation of an atomic bomb. But the scorpion also has another particularity, much stranger and more enigmatic. Did you know that this super predator was totally phosphorescent? Indeed, it is enough to point a UV lamp on a scorpion in the dark to see it immediately illuminated with a beautiful shade of yellow and green sparkling. This phosphorescence has long remained a mystery to science, and many theories try to find an explanation. The most plausible track, nevertheless, would be that the carapace of the scorpions would act as a very effective receiver of light, able to detect the least variation of photons. This incredible particularity confers to the scorpion, which is a nocturnal animal by essence, the possibility of quickly finding a shelter, even in the most total darkness. Who has never dreamed of finding a beautiful iridescent pearl when opening an oyster in a restaurant? With the New Year's Eve and the end of the year celebrations, you must have eaten a lot of these delicious mollusks. Alas, even if you opened 24 oysters, plus the half dozen brought back by your guests, you didn't find a rare pearl. But maybe you would have had better chances if you had had real pearl oysters, exactly like the one in this incredible video. Look at the incredible harvest of this Asian oyster farmer, who obviously hit the jackpot with this big oyster. These are indeed a good dozen sublime pearls that were hidden in its entrails, and which will undoubtedly adorn a magnificent jeweler's necklace. Of course, Mother Nature needed a helping hand to obtain such a result, because pearls are extremely rare in the wild. Indeed, a grain of sand or any other foreign body must already be introduced inside the shell of the mollusk. To avoid any irritation, the mollusk will then coat this intruder with successive layers of mother of pearl, until a splendid single pearl is obtained. The wild boar is considered by hunters as a game of choice, but for farmers and agriculturalists, it represents a real nightmare on legs. This voracious animal is indeed capable of destroying an entire crop, causing damage that can easily amount to tens of thousands of euros. Extremely gluttonous and moving in hordes, the wild boar is considered a pest in many regions of the world. In order to limit its population, which is constantly growing with the seasons, it is allowed to hunt it almost all year long. But in spite of everything, this tough-skinned animal is still present in our fields and forests. It was therefore necessary to think of a much more effective way than hunting: trapping. On this surprising video, you can get rid of a whole horde of wild boars, and this without even firing a single bullet. The trap consists of a large hardened steel cage arranged in a circle with 2 openings. The wild pigs are lured inside with grains they love, and once they are all inside, the trap closes automatically thanks to a motion detector. There is no less than 42 wild boars, which were caught in one go, and this without any bloodshed or hunting accident. Rather classy, isn't it? Imagine that you were on the ice floe in the middle of the Arctic Ocean, and that you are admiring the splendor of this wild and immaculate landscape. You can indeed appreciate the soft silence which reigns in the universe of ice, as well as the purity which emerges from it. You say to yourself that you have finally found this place free of any human pollution, whether it is sound or visual. And in spite of the intense cold which is freezing your limbs, you savor even more the quietude of this magic place. But even as you were in deep thought, a thunderous noise of broken ice and metal brings you back to Earth. A literally apocalyptic vision appears right in front of you, just a few meters from where you were dreaming. The metallic monster that you see emerging from the icy depths is none other than the USS Connecticut, an American nuclear attack submarine. It's true that you had the fright of your life, but you can console yourself with the good hot chocolate offered by the crew members. With a price tag of more than 30,000 euros per kilo, saffron is without a doubt the most expensive spice in the world. This excessive price is explained by the great rarity of saffron, because it is also the most laborious spice to produce on the planet. Indeed, to produce saffron, it is first necessary to cultivate the Crocus sativus, a beautiful purple flower that only grows in certain climates. Then, you will have to pick the equivalent of 150,000 flowers and spend a good 40 hours to collect by hand the 3 famous red stigmas of each flower to finally obtain 1 kilogram of saffron. But even if you manage to plant several hectares of crocus, you are not sure to be able to harvest this red gold, because as we said, saffron requires a very particular climate and soil, as well as a direct and uninterrupted exposure to sunlight. So, if you live in the north of France, you will have to resign yourself to buy your saffron at the local organic supermarket. In Bangladesh, we take port activities very seriously, as you will see on this unusual sequence. This literally dystopian scene shows us what a normal day is like in this Bangladeshi port with its infernal traffic. With no port infrastructure worthy of the name, this gigantic terminal welcomes a good number of heterogeneous boats, which literally navigate in chaos. Watch what happens when a gigantic passenger ferry tries to dock in the middle of this mess. Its perilous maneuver to dock is further hindered by the small boats of fruit merchants, who crowd around it to make uncomfortable commercial transactions. One of these frail ships was even going to be crushed during this dangerous docking, if it were not for the daring intervention of these 2 unconscious men, who literally risked their lives in the action. Finally, and after a few intense moments of pure adrenaline, the big ferry managed to dock without anyone being hurt. Let's make way for a sequence that is a bit muddy, but which will have the merit of showing you how dangerous and totally unpredictable nature can be. This scene comes from the American state of New Mexico, an almost arid state which receives an average of only 380 millimeters of rainfall per year. But when the monsoon season arrives, it is very frequent that the dried rivers and streams fill up almost instantaneously. The inhabitants of the state must then sometimes to deal with the real torrents of muddy water carrying hundreds of tons of debris and torn off tree trunks. As you can see on these terrible images, the bed of this river filled up practically in the blink of an eye by these hundreds of thousands of cubic meters of water, which poured there furiously. And although the surrounding land is protected by a strong dike, as well as a huge underground tunnel to channel the water flow, this tumultuous torrent ended up overflowing. The water quickly flooded the entire area, forcing the unfortunate residents to run for their lives. And as is customary on your beloved YouTube channel, we have saved the best for last, with this sequence that seems to be taken from the movie Jaws. But we reassure you anyway, because it is by no means the terrifying great white shark in this strange video, but rather a very small shark that hardly exceeds 56 centimeters. This is a ferocious sharklet, and despite its Lilliputian size, it is, as its name indicates, a formidable predator, because the jaw of this small shark is a real shredding machine, with dozens of rows of extremely sharp teeth. The bite marks found on some marine animals are so thick and circular that this shark is called cookie cutter. With teeth like this, the fierce shark is certainly the shark you hope will never bite you, and we can tell you that you are right. And that's it for today. What do you think of these 10 amazing and totally bizarre sequences, which you are probably seeing for the first time in your life? Which one of them impressed you the most? Tell us in the comments, and if you liked this video, don't forget to put a like and subscribe and activate the notifications. See you soon for new discoveries out of the ordinary.